To engage the public more directly in how art production and cultural production can actually move and change the world as it is now. My key areas of engagement are somehow transversally the cross-cut and entangled, and it includes teaching, writing, and research in the fields of political philosophy, cultural studies, gender studies, queer theory, but also performance studies, as much as being engaged and ongoing engagement for many years now in queer and feminist activist struggles, which includes also mobilization and organization of marginal communities. And finally, my work in the field of culture and arts, which includes curating not only like separate exhibitions and collaboration with separate artists, but also curating and organizing festivals. Which is tightly connected also to my work in the field of cultural theory as well, critical theory and performance studies, but also social choreography and dance. Some of the major characteristics that have also motivated my work include, on the one hand, a deeply ingrained heteronormative and patriarchal system. And that is something that also Serbia and North Macedonia share. Another important characteristic of the context, and that is very specific to Macedonia, is the lack of knowledge production and of scholarly work and academic work in the field of gender studies, queer theory, and critical theory, especially contemporary critical theory, which is a transdisciplinary field. And another thing that also is specific for the context and that separates the Macedonian from the Serbian, for example, context is also the lack of performing arts and production in the field of performing arts, but also choreographic and contemporary choreographic practices. So there is also a struggle that when you engage in this kind of transdisciplinary, transmedial work, you have to fight all the time. You're fighting as some sort of rhizomatic position, trying to connect these different fields, and then you have to justify, explain yourself, but also try to insert yourself in different fields and make some sort of a change in these separated fields that you try to bring together into a dialogue.
I would like if you can also tell us a bit about Skopje Pride Weekend, which just recently closed under the title Cruel Optimism. So I'm really curious, what does this title designate for you?
Cruel optimism as a concept signifies or refers to our attachment, our investment, which is liberal, which is effective, emotional investment, our stuckness in certain scenes, certain objects, norms, institutions that work as a cluster of promises of a good life. Promise of a good life that instead of bringing closer the good life actually goes against our individual and collective flourishing. It exhausts our lives, but what is cruel is that we keep on hanging on to these promises. The crisis with the pandemic, with the COVID-19 pandemic, actually also brought this question forcefully. A lot of the grounds and foundations of our capitalist systems and in general, all of our norms and ideals that we have been nurturing for such a long time have been shattered. Our vulnerability and our constitutive relationality to others has been brought to the surface. But at the same time, there is this idea of coming back to the normal, a new normal, which is again investment in the institutions, in the scenes that actually have been promising the good life for such a long time, have never brought it and have exhausted our lives. And finally, how can queer and feminist struggles try to depart from the normative? How can we depart from these scenes, stop investing, make certain break in these scenes, see that they are already broken inside of them, and use these impasses as possibilities for creating different worlds?